Okay, we're back. So I left off in the part when we said that we all got to the deliberation room after hearing the witness, and from what I hear, everybody's not agreeing with me that this was going to show the one juror that was thinking that the defendant was guilty, that it was going to show her that there was doubt in a lot of the statements. So we go to the room. I go off and I say, okay, hearing what you heard now, is there a doubt in your mind? And she's like, no, what I heard from the witness solidifies that the defendant is guilty. So I say, what about what you just heard makes you think that he's guilty? And then she goes, well, the witness said that within the investigation, they found X, Y, and Z. So I go, okay, well, they also said that this was also a possibility, right? So this other theory could also be a possibility. So that creates doubts because now you have a different possibility of what the event could have been. Now I'm rephrasing this so it could fit the video, but I'm going into specifics with the juror. And then she goes, well, no, like I'm not gonna take that part. And I said, well, you need to take every single part of what the witness said, or what the person that was giving the statement. You can't just pick and choose what parts you want to hear. That means that you're picking and choosing, like you're just being really biased. So we go into the talk to the judge a couple times. I'm just gonna talk about that part. One of the parts we asked her, what does it mean to have proof without a reasonable doubt? We literally had to ask the judge to clarify that part because we felt like this juror did not understand the definition of that by law. By law. Because you could have your own definition, but by law, what is the law's definition of this? We tell the juror, this is what the judge said. We're proof without reasonable doubt. So if you have a different theory of what the events could have been based on the evidence, that means that there's doubts because you don't know 100% what the actual situation was. Because you have other scenarios that could have happened. So that means that there's doubt. When I tell you guys that this juror was not listening, but I was still like talking to her, like, a lot of us were. Now, this is where it gets like conflict. There's one juror on the other side, like really far. The table's really long, so towards the end of the other side of the table. She tells her, well, you're being close-minded, like she's sharing her opinion. And this juror literally goes off, like literally goes off on the other juror, like completely is like, I am tired of you. I think, now let me say for this, the juror that is the only one that doesn't think that that the defendant is guilty, the one that thinks the defendant is guilty, she's older. The juror that thinks the defendant is not guilty, she's younger. So she's like talking to her like kind of like little girling her in a sense, like kind of just being like, I'm like, and you should just, that kind of energy, right? I don't know if you guys understood that. Like, I'm from the Bronx, so for me, like, I go based on like people's energies and how they speak. So that's kind of like the energy that they were giving me. So we're all kind of just like listening to this. I'm listening to this. I'm like going like looking back and forth, seeing like what they're saying and kind of just like following through their argument because they're arguing. Some of the jurors are like, guys, like don't argue. I'm just more like I'm listening because I'm just like, even if they're arguing, I want to see what they're saying, you know? My conclusion from that was that the juror that was like the older one, I feel like she was taking a lot of things personal, and I feel like she was like talking to this other younger juror as if she was like her mother and was trying to like make her like pipe down. And it's just like, everyone here is entitled to their opinion and you should not feel targeted or like attacked by someone's opinion. And one of the things that the older juror said was like, oh, you came over here to me when I was talking, you got close to me because you want to intimidate me. Guys, in the beginning of this, I said that the room was hot. I said that we were all under a lot of stress. So I understand that emotions were high, but you can't think that someone is trying to intimidate you just because they got closer to you while you're speaking. That's a very like big jump in accusation, right? And on top of that, me being in that room, I can one testify to the fact that there was a fan that was blowing the whole time, and the fact that the juror that was older, she wears a mask and she talks like really timid, really low. So it was really hard to like hear her sometimes. Like me even being in front of her, I couldn't really hear her that well. Like I had to like come in closer to her. So imagine someone that was on the other side of the room. Like when I heard her say that, I was like, wait, like you're taking her actions and you're already like assuming that she's trying to intimidate you. When again, there's other possibilities to things. So already this person already gives me like you're very close-minded. Like you already jump to conclusions, right? Okay, that happens, that argument happens. All of us are like, okay, like our first argument, like as a group, as a collective, because even though they two argued, it was still like a collective because we all experienced it. So I forget like what I said like during that argument. Like I think that I was just like kind of in shock because I'm like, okay, like you know, tensions got high, we're tired, I'm thirsty. Like, okay, what makes you feel like this person is guilty? Like, I feel like all of us here are trying to make you think that he's not guilty, but like, what makes you think that he's guilty? Like, convince us. He goes on by saying, I remember I wrote down, because I saw it today, it was 3 different points. And while she was saying it, I was saying it back to her. I'm like, okay, you think so because of point number 1, point number 2, point number 3. And I was like saying it out loud so she could agree with me. So she could know that this is the point that I will be referring back to when I speak to her, when I have my rebuttal, when I will try to give her doubts on those points, because those points that she was speaking on, I had doubts about. So I'm telling her my opinion. These are the 3 points that juror number X said, and I want to go through them one by one. And I read out the first point. I said, this juror said the first point. What do you guys think? Everybody went around except for a couple of jurors and said what they think about her point and said why they don't believe that that was strong enough to convict him that he was guilty. A police officer knocked on the door because remember, whenever somebody will have to enter the court, like our section of the deliberation room, they had to knock on the door. They knock on the door, so we stop and they're like, okay, like, you know, it's time for you guys to go home. Like, you guys have been here for a very long time. Like, you know, guys need to go home. And I remember saying, like, oh my gosh, like, we just got like really, we made a lot of progress. Like, can we stay? And they were like, well, you guys could stay. You guys could keep talking about it while you guys are putting your jackets on. But you guys need to go back into the courtroom and the judge will tell you your duty and then you have to leave. But it was a challenge. Like I remember going home and being like, wow, like that was a lot. Like that was a lot. Like people had like really intense opinions and but I really thought, okay, day 2, it was gonna get better. But unfortunately, day 2 was different. Day 2 was intense and day 2 was only 3 hours, but it was, we came in at 2, we left at 5. Yeah, 3 hours. It was more intense than day 1, and I will get into day 2 of my experience with the trial. And the second part of this video, I will say second because I feel like this part has been a while. So yeah, just stay tuned for my second part of the trial and what we experienced on day 2.